Yeah, Bueller.
I'm sorry.
Let's take our seats. And
Okay.
we are on the air.
Looks like we're ready now. So I call to order the September 12th Hot Springs Planning Commission meeting. We will start with an invocation and pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Walker, would you do the invocation?
Heads bowed. Heavenly Father, guide our hearts and mind in the spirit of fairness, right thought and speech tonight. Thank you for being our source of guidance. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Stoddard, would you please call the roll?
Ramick. Campbell.
Present.
Sharma.
Present.
Yates. Scott.
Present.
Gerke.
Present.
Collier.
Present.
Lamont.
Here.
Davis.
Present.
Walker.
Here.
Val. Stafford.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right. So, may I have a motion and a second for the approval of last month's meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now let's move to the approval of the agenda for this evening. May I have a motion and a second for the approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so let's move on to consideration of the consent agenda. The first matter of business is consent agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Director Selman, would you please present the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one item on the consent agenda. It is miscellaneous item number 24-132 at 2614 Albert Pike Road, an application request to install a 2-foot by 8-foot sign on a building at Volcano Falls Mini Golf. The applicant is Tim Wade with Action Sign and Neon. The recommendation is for approval. And the recommendation is to approve the request for a 16 square foot roof sign for Volcano Falls Mini Golf at 2614 Albert Pike Road, as it does meet the requirements of Hot Springs Code Section 16524C. That completes the reports on the consent agenda item.
Okay, Mr. Stoddard, would you please take roll on the motion to approve the consent agenda?
Sharma,
Approved.
Scott,
Approved.
Kirky,
Approved.
Collier,
Approved.
Lamont,
Approved.
Davis, Walker,
Approve.
Campbell,
Approve.
Stafford.
Approve. Okay, so the next matter on the agenda is new business. Director Selman, would you please introduce the next item?
Thank you. Next item is ordinance amendment number 24-141, an ordinance amendment to change the age requirement to place a manufactured home in the city of Hot Springs.
Okay, a motion to approve merely gets the matter on the floor for discussion. A motion and second do not mean that you are necessarily in favor of an application, but may I have a motion and a second to approve the item?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Director Selman, could you please present the staff report?
Thank you. This is an ordinance amendment that would require all manufactured homes placed within the city of Hot Springs after the effective date of this ordinance to have been manufactured after March 15, 2021, the same being the effective date of the HUD manufactured home construction and safety standards. Ordinance number 5075, codified as Hot Springs Code Title 16, Chapter 3.3, established rules and regulations regarding manufactured and mobile homes by establishing the minimum specifications for public health, safety, and welfare, including a date of manufacture of October 25th, 1994 or later. The Hot Springs Housing Strategy identifies an urgent need for a variety of housing types in all price categories. Housing affordability should not sacrifice public health, safety, and welfare, and manufactured homes constructed to the federal manufactured housing construction and safety standards, 24 CFR 3280, are safe and affordable options. The United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, at 24 CFR Part 3280, Manufactured Home Construction and Safety Standards, effective date March 15th, 2021, Section 3280.1 scope states, this standard covers all equipment and installation in the design, construction, transportation, fire safety, plumbing, heat producing, and electrical systems of manufactured homes which are designed to be used as dwelling units. The building code, which is Arkansas Fire Prevention Code Volume 3, is updated on a periodic basis when the state and the International Code Council update the regulations to reflect changes in technology, safety standards, and construction techniques. Those codes apply only to stick-built housing. This would, for the safety, public health, and welfare of the occupants, would require manufactured homes placed within the city of Hot Springs after the effective date of this ordinance and as authorized by this chapter to have been manufactured after March 15, 2021, the same being the effective date of federal manufactured home construction and safety standards, incorporating revised specifications for general, which is subpart A, planning considerations, subpart B, and fire safety, subpart C. This would put the regulation of manufactured homes on a more timely basis, as this time we require that the homes meet the standards that were adopted by HUD in 1994. Only HUD can establish construction standards for manufactured homes. We cannot. HUD preempts us from doing that, as does Arkansas statute. And this change would not in any way affect the construction regulations that are established by HUD. The date of manufacture is listed on what is called the HUD label. Every manufactured home has a HUD label, and it shows that date of manufacture. This amendment proposes to repeal the section that we have in the code now that requires manufactured homes to have been manufactured on or after October 25th, 24th? October of 1994, in any case, and would update that to March 15th of 2021. The recommendation is that the Board of Directors approve an ordinance requiring all manufactured homes placed within the city of Hot Springs after the effective date of this ordinance to have been manufactured after March 15, 2021, that being the effective date of the HUD Manufactured Home Construction and Safety Standards. And you may hear tonight that this is an attempt to regulate in an area that HUD has preempted. It is not. This is an action under the city's police powers, which is where we have our ability to zone. This is not changing the HUD standards. This is saying that the HUD standard that was adopted in 2021 be the guiding document for homes that are placed within the city from the effective date of this ordinance and thereafter. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, so Director Selman, I suppose you're the applicant on this one?
I am representing the applicant, yes.
Yes. Is there anything further? I suppose you read the report and that's it, so.
I would be available to answer questions.
Okay, very good. So for those signed up to speak, when I call your name, please come forward, state your name and address, and present your comments to the commission. You have 3 minutes to do so. J.D. Harper, would you please come forward, give us your name and address?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. J.D. Harper, Arkansas Manufactured Housing Association in Little Rock, representing the manufactured home dealers, the mobile home parks that are here in Hot Springs. We found out about this Friday when the Planning Commission's packet went out. Looked at it over the weekend, made contact with your city staff, and had a call with the city staff and city attorney yesterday talking about the problems with the ordinance the way it's currently drafted. Ms. Selman had a very detailed presentation in much more than 3 minutes. I know I'm not going to be able to cover it all. I did bring a written statement for you that basically asks that you not adopt an ordinance tonight without hearing what we have to say. 3 minutes is not going to be long enough. So how would you like me to proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Please use your 3 minutes as best you can, and then after that, we'll decide where to go.
All right, I'm with the Arkansas Manufactured Housing Association. I've been with them for the last 30 years. I've worked with cities all over the state dealing with ordinances as they regulate manufactured and modular housing. Worked with the city of Hot Springs back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Found a file in my office about that thick from the discussions that we had earlier on ordinances here. We made some recommendations, some of which you took, some of which you didn't. The manufactured home construction and safety standards are set by HUD, and they've been set by HUD since 1976. Over time, HUD makes changes to those standards, and as Ms. Selman said, the standards are preemptive. They are the standards that all homes in America have to be built to wherever they're built, and they're sent all over the country, and they are deemed to be constructed to that federal preemptive standard. That standard is updated from time to time. It's updated under HUD. HUD makes changes to it all the time, basically. A lot of those changes are procedural. A lot of those changes are about enforcement actions. A lot of those changes are made about testing that's done in the factory. So the code that we're talking about is not like the IRC. It's not a prescriptive code. It is a performance-based code. It says you have to have a roof load that meets X amount of pounds. It doesn't tell you how many rafters and what size they need to be. It says if your system meets that requirement, it is approved under design approval by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the house can be built to meet that standard. The problem with the ordinance as it is tonight, the adoption of a 2021 change to the standards would be, and that change to the standards, Mr. Chairman, dealt with things like stairways, attics, basements, carports, garages, and the use of combination smoke detectors and CO alarms. It wasn't about the basic construction. It wasn't a substantive change to the construction. It's not that the houses built in early March were unsafe and the ones that are built in late March are safe. That's not what that change in 2021 did. Your current ordinance, when it was originally written, said that you couldn't move a house into Hot Springs if it was more than 10 years old. We told the city at that time, don't pick an arbitrary date and time, because if you do that, you're going to get sued. It's going to be on the basis of what condition that house is in. And if it looks great, it's got a HUD label on it, HUD says it met the code, you're going to get sued for saying a 10-year-old house can't come in. So what you needed to hang your hat on, if you wanted to hang it on anything, was the most substantive changes that had been made. Remember, I'm talking about back in the early 2000s when this ordinance was passed. The most recent substantive changes that had been made were 1994. And that was after hurricanes. We got wind zone standards set. We got energy zone standards set. I'm sorry, my allergies are acting up. But those were the most substantive changes at that time. Since then, there have been other sets of substantive changes, but the changes in 2021 were not safe or unsafe as they're being portrayed tonight. And as a matter of fact, when we were on the phone yesterday with the city attorney and the planning office, HUD announced another round of changes that'll probably take 18 months to 2 years to get done. So what we're asking you tonight is to not send forth an ordinance where a person that lives in this town currently in what could be a non-conforming use has a manufactured home, mobile home, whatever you want to call it, over behind the racetrack, over here on 2nd Street, and a tree falls on that house tonight. If those people have to go replace it, the city is going to tell them, you have to buy something that's been built since March of 2021. And I don't know if you keep up with pricing, but our product's gone up just like everything else. So your low to moderate income people are going to be priced out of the market by this ordinance. We're asking that you work with us. Don't pass it tonight. Don't send it to the city board. Give us the opportunity to tell you what we've done with other cities. Thank you.
I have a question. You're talking about substantive changes
Yes.
and those that are not substantive. The non-substantive changes, are those not included as an extension of the overall standards set by HUD?
They're part of the code.
Yeah.
Actually, the code's in 3 pieces. You've got 3280, 3282, and 3285. 3280 is the construction standards, 3282 is the procedural, 3285 is an installation standard. So yes, it may be something very simple, and I made some notes in this earlier today. For instance, has anybody ever here seen a 2-story manufactured home?
Yeah.
You have, because you're a planner. We don't get them here. We don't see them here. A lot of these changes in 2021 were about how to set up stairways on 2-story manufactured homes. We don't see a lot of basements here with manufactured homes. A lot of this was about basements. Part of it was about constructed garages and carports that are built in the factory and sent to the final site. We don't see a lot of that here. So all of that's covered because it's a national standard. But these changes were made, and they're not nuts and bolts about how the house is built. They're not about whether it's safe or not. It's about alternative construction letters. It's about things that HUD regulates and the factories care about, but as far as you as a city, you don't have any interest in.
Well, as a city, we certainly do have an interest, I suppose, in making sure that, you know, the housing that comes in is safe and habitable. So
Agreed.
I guess maybe I'm not understanding how some of these changes come together? I mean, does the adoption of a non-substantive change by HUD change anything in the other areas or in the other regulations that HUD has put together?
These changes come in packages. There may be 90 different changes that are.
But when they come,
Okay.
they're still incorporated into a single concept, right? A single document or set of standards.
They're incorporated into the federal manufactured home construction and safety standards, yes.
Is that what we're?
We're only looking at certain sections of that, section 201 to 213, which, and I'm sure Mr. Harper would love to tell you about the checklist that he worked with the Arkansas Municipal League on. I'm sure it's state of the art. He certainly told us it was. Our inspectors do not inspect these homes. They come with the HUD label. The HUD label is it. That's the guarantee of everything. And so we would like to have, substantive or not, in Mr. Harper's mind, a standard that covers those things that are likely to be of interest either today or in the future. And I can tell you, I've seen two-story manufactured homes as long as 20 years ago.
I've seen
So
them
it's not like it's impossible for one to show up in Hot Springs.
too. Not impossible.
So
Improbable.
we would like to be able to regulate those things, not just what we have today, but those things that may be here in the future. When I lived in a manufactured home, it was on a basement.
Okay?
And that was many, many, many years ago. So I don't think it's impossible. If this one individual has experienced a manufactured home on a basement, that might not be the choice that somebody else would make. So we are interested in covering those potentialities in addition to the realities of what we're dealing with today.
If someone wants to place a home on a basement in the city of Hot Springs today, they're already bound by the 2021 standards. You don't have to adopt them as a city.
So what's
That is
the
a federal
objection?
standard.
So what's the objection to adopting it as an explicit
It is,
standard?
what you're adopting is a ban on anything built prior to 2021 coming into the city. When you read the way it's currently written, no home built March 14th of 2021 or prior is going to be allowed in the city anywhere. If I own my own home and want to move it into the city, you're going to stop me from getting a permit. If I live in one mobile home park and want to move to the other, and it's a 2018, you're not going to give me a permit to move it. If I have a house that's destroyed by fire or a tree falling on it, like I mentioned earlier, if I have to go buy a house, I'm going to have to buy a 2021. I can't buy a 2020 that you can't tell the difference in. There's no substantive difference. There's no material difference in the safety of that house as the one in March of 2022. So I'm saying you're moving in a direction and you're hearing code arguments. And code is important. Your city does not inspect the manufactured home because your city inspectors don't know the manufactured home code. They can't inspect to it. They're prohibited from inspecting to that.
And we
What I
have
tried
no
to tell Ms.
desire to
Selman
do it.
yesterday on the phone is we've worked with this. Cities all over the state, they love a new house because it meets code. When it comes to a previously owned house, how do we deal with it? And we've been successful in helping cities deal with how to accept used houses, previously owned houses. And it's not inspection, it's whether it meets your habitability standards or not. It's not, your inspectors aren't on the line. I talked to a city planner yesterday in Northwest Arkansas about the same issue, and they're adopting it. So all I'm saying is, hear us out. Don't just slam the gas on this thing and make us go to the council or the city board and have this same conversation. give us the opportunity to give you some options. At least look at some options.
I'd like to give the rest of the planning commission an opportunity to ask questions as well. I mean, we're going to go into commission discussion, but if there are any questions that you want to ask of.
Do we not have any other speakers?
No.
Okay. So it's some of this semantics in terms of the way the code reads that says specifically nothing that's 10 years old, or just says you have to adopt, anything new coming in has to meet this 2021 code.
Mr. Harper's story of the 10 years, that code has not been in effect for almost 20
Okay.
years.
So we are only requiring that it meet.
It meets the
2021
1994.
code.
The
Second-
1994 code is what's in effect now.
Yes,
This would take it to 2021.
because we're explicit about the date of the code.
We-
And our code is
mhm.
explicit about the date of the HUD regulation, and so would an alternative be to just in our code to say it meets the current, the then applicable current HUD regulations at the time it's moved in?
Very
Or do you-
difficult to enforce.
Okay, all right, you've discussed that with legal. All right, so that's,
Mhm.
all right, that solves that. And so I'm not clear what specifically you referred to a little bit ago about are you asking us to, because apparently we only apply certain sections of this HUD regulation, even though he suggests that the whole regulation applies in any home set anywhere. So are you asking that, or are you just asking us to make some provision to accept some older homes that don't meet that code because they meet some other requirements?
I'm asking you to allow people that live in your town that want to place a home here to either buy a new house without any problem, it meets
Yeah.
current code. Or if they want to buy a used home or previously owned home, you have a business here in town that actually buys used homes and buys repossessed homes from banks and lenders. And they put in new carpeting, and they put in new paint, do all that, and they sell repossessed homes. So you've got somebody here doing that. Allow someone that's going to put that house in the city to apply. Don't tell them no because it wasn't built after March 15th of 2021. And not inspect, but require that the house meet your habitability standards. It's got a HUD label on it that certifies it was built to the HUD standards when it was constructed. So it met the federal standards that were in play at that time when it came through the factory. So the changes may not have had the things that Ms. Selman talks about with basements and all those sort of things, but that wasn't involved in the code at that time. It still met the federal building standard. So I'm going to read you something. If a locality or enforcement of a local ordinance regulating manufactured homes, a locality is free to adopt and enforce ordinances such that do not have effect of excluding manufactured homes based on the construction and safety standards to which they were built. It doesn't say future standards. What it says, the standards to which they were built. That's from HUD. So what we're saying is, don't make a house, don't deny a house based on the fact that it's not built to a standard that didn't exist when it was built.
Director Selman, is this something that would become unworkable if variances were required for homes that were prior to this standard? So in other words, if we adopt this standard and expect it to be followed, unless someone comes in and asks for a variance, would that work?
It could work. What would be the basis of such a variance?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Well,
I'm open.
just as a matter of curiosity, surely you're not suggesting that something that was built to HUD standards so long ago that there have clearly been a demonstrated need to improve those standards, still be accepted into the city? I mean, that doesn't seem to make sense to me.
That's how you got to where you are today, is you had an arbitrary line. The 10-year line was in the original ordinance that was passed. And the former city attorney knew that. The current city attorney found out about that. And I believe we were even contacted and recommended at that time that the most recent substantive changes at that time were the 94 changes. Now, your question about would we say it, how old, I don't know how old is. That's why we're telling you that we've had other cities that have adopted the same type of ordinance that require, if it is a used home, you make an application, you put the same information off the data plate, when it was built, all these things, and you require that it meet the habitability standards with a set, she made fun of the checklist, but the one that was adopted and that we worked on with the municipal league to make certain that the house had the operating doors and windows and had all the systems that work. You don't want something with holes in the floor and holes in the roof. You're going to have situations where people of meager means want to bring a house into town and they want to work on it while it's in the park. That's a slippery slope. We all know that. But you've got controls over that with your occupancy, your certificates of occupancy. You don't have to turn the water on until it gets to a certain point. So we're saying the ordinance that you have tonight leaves a lot of people, low to moderate income families, in a real problem because they can't afford a new house. They might be able to afford a used house. If they can, and that house meets your smell test, if you want to call it that, it could come here. Variances are a problem because legally, variances deal with the individual piece of property. They do not deal with a class of houses.
Well, it should, in my view, it probably should deal with an individual piece of property at that point.
So if the piece of property was shaped like a piece of pie and couldn't meet setbacks, that's when a variance is applied. It's not to allow a home that's older than what you allowed in your ordinance. And the other problem is you've got a state law that says you can't have restrictions or conditions on manufactured homes that you don't apply to other single-family homes in the same district or zone. So if you're going to make everyone that comes in to get a variant, comes in to want to get a house to have a variance, you got to treat them all the same. You got to treat manufactured housing just like you treat everything else.
Yeah, if I might make a comment. We're aware that a variance is for an unusual circumstance on a piece of land. And to your point about the habitability, I believe you will recall in our conversation yesterday that the city attorney noted a major difficulty in performing that habitability test because if the unit is not in the city, we would not be able to look at it. And once it is in the city and someone has gone to considerable expense to move it into the city, the possibilities that they would be in a position to move said unit out of the city if it did not meet the habitability standards, that creates a huge barrier to a person of limited means. So, I think that what you're saying sounds somewhat logical, but in practice would be nearly impossible.
I would support you if someone moved a house here without a permit and you said, no, it's got to go because we don't approve it. I would be 100% behind you. They've got to have a building permit to move here. In order to get a building permit, they're going to come in and say, this is what I've got. When someone comes in to get a building permit to build a house, you don't know what the house is going to look like till it's done. You've got plans, sure, but you don't know what it's going to be done until it's finished. People aren't going to move a house here and then ask you for permission. If they do, throw them out. I don't have a problem with that.
Perhaps I didn't make myself clear. I'm saying that it would not be possible for the inspector to make a visit to that home if it was not in the city.
Not expecting the inspector to do that. What other cities have done is require photographs of the houses, and they have a checklist that says the unit must have all material, roofing material must be secure, all windows shall be operative without broken panes, all exterior siding shall be in place, no dented or torn or loose siding should be allowed, All kitchen and bathroom facilities shall be operational. All attached gutters shall be functional. Cornice materials be undamaged. Paint be uniform. Doors be plumb. It's got the basic tenets of what this house has to have for it to come here. But as y'all aren't any different from any other city, the biggest problem is always how to deal with used houses. How do we deal with them? And I'm asking that you give your low to moderate income people an opportunity, instead of saying they've got to buy something that's built in 2021 or newer, because most of them, from what I saw today, driving around town, when some of these units are no longer serviceable, there's no way those people are going to be able to buy a newer house. There's just no way. The park issue is another problem, because movement between parks, park owners buying units to bring them in to rent, me bringing my house here to put in a park where I don't own the property. If I bring a house here that I own, you're going to turn me away because it was built in 2018. That's not fair. It's not reasonable.
I would mention that any house that is built here must be built to the code that is in effect, the most recent code. And that
I'm on the
this,
Code Review Commission. I know exactly what you're talking about.
that's great. I feel much more comfortable.
I bet you.
The situation is, I think, perhaps not as simple as either you or I would like it to be. And we recognize that. There is a need, we believe, to take a look at the changes that have occurred since 1994, when HUD established that standard. And we believe that HUD, in making those substantive changes, had the best interest of the future residents in mind. In accepting HUD's judgment on that fact, would like to use a code that is more recent than their 1994 initial adoption.
And I believe when we spoke yesterday, I told you that I was working on getting a list of the changes. And when we talked, what I was telling her is the National Association of people that I work with that deal with HUD directly, we're all at a meeting with HUD where the National Consensus Committee was actually meeting to adopt these changes they're working on. So they were all there and unable to get with me to give me the information I needed, but they promised me they will get it to me as soon as possible. So again, our request tonight is that you not forward this to the council, that you give it some more thought, some more work. I felt like we were late to the party. When I saw it on the agenda, I thought, well, they've been having hearings on this or something. And I went back and looked at the agendas and went back and looked at the minutes and saw that it was discussed at the last meeting and that it's here tonight for public hearing. So we learned about it literally Friday. So
Well, I'd like to suggest at this point that we just close the public discussion part, and
Well,
if there are any discussion.
I have another question. I want a clarification. Mr. Harper, do you feel you've had a chance to present all the rationale and evidence and justification that you would like to the city?
no, sir. No.
How many times have you met with the city?
I had an hour, 45 minute to an hour conference call yesterday with the city attorney and myself. And I brought you a letter asking you for your.
Is it reasonable to push the decision a month to then have a conversation around this in terms of like a working session or some kind of thing so that we
Yeah.
make sure that we have all the information?
Sure.
Yeah, I think the city board looks to us to present a well-reviewed and to consider all the facts and figures in it. And
Right.
frankly, from at this point, if I were sitting on the board, I'd be inclined to send it back to us. And so, is it appropriate to have a motion that we table this to the next?
Yeah,
planning
you can
commission
set
meeting?
it to the next meeting,
We can set it
absolutely.
for
Yeah,
public hearing. And
just a comment that I think our probably, our mindset should probably be about what is best for
Yeah.
the people that are coming in, and that is not always an accommodation of the lowest common denominator. But I do agree, let's have a motion to table if somebody wants
So
to.
moved.
To that meeting.
Yeah,
So moved to the
October.
next,
Yeah.
to the October. planning
Second.
commission meeting.
Second.
Oh, you second, Karen?
okay, so this
Mr.
item is
Chair, how
tabled.
would you like for us to proceed from our position?
I don't know, that's something I guess I'd like to talk with Director Selman about,
Okay.
and then,
Well, I think it's
If I
logical
could-
he- This is to give time for him to present his facts to the city, for the city to evaluate those facts and re-present it to us for a final decision.
Yeah.
So,
By city, you mean city staff?
city staff, yes.
That's what I'm just trying to figure out where we're going.
but I do think that we should expect to arrive at a decision without a protracted series of discussions on this. I mean, you know, we probably need to, I agree, probably more information is good, but not going line by line through the HUD standard.
I don't want to do that either.
Okay.
The changes they sent out yesterday were 192 pages. I didn't have time to get all the way through those, but we agree affordable housing is necessary. We're in an affordable housing crisis in this country, as everybody in this room knows. We are one of the answers. We're not the only answer, but one of the tools that should be in your toolbox to allow people to live in the city of Hot Springs.
Can I ask
Okay.
a question real quick? How much is a house? How much is this house? If it were in 20?
I am so glad you asked. I have a retailer here that's one of your business owners here in Hot Springs, and I said, if they start talking price, I'm turning that over to you, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, let's not get into
Okay.
price at this point.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Mistake.
I mean, you know, he was saying moderate.
Yeah.
If someone wanted a 20, he used 2018. So for informational use, he's saying this one group of people. So I'm looking at people who aren't always in that group. So, you know, I'm looking at a whole different group that you might look at. So how much does it cost? If you're gonna change the standards, you gotta change it for everybody. You can't look at lower moderate people. You gotta look at everybody.
Right.
And we tend to want to look at one group when there are other groups.
There are other groups. And our consideration of this item is to attempt to put manufactured housing on the same level as stick-built housing in terms of updated technologies, standards, and safety, and so forth,
For everybody.
for everybody. And this is land use, we're talking zoning,
Yes, and so.
and price is not a consideration. This is zoning.
Well, I understand that, but the zones in which some of these people will be and won't be always in the most eclectic parts of town. So
That
that's
sounds
why
like-
I asked,
Yeah.
how much?
It's a good and relevant point, but maybe we can take that
We've
up
already
in our
agreed
next
to have
discussion.
have another meeting
And
beyond this.
can
so
we
I
talk
think
about that date?
Yeah.
That is the same date that you're looking at the zoning code?
If we want to do that, since we're already here, then yes. If not, then we can do another time. I mean, I don't
Well,
feel
you
like
said
we
it
have all
was
the
here.
information
I
we
mean,
need.
I know.
No, no,
At this
I don't
point.
want to do it
in ter-
tonight.
No,
I'm
no, no,
saying
I meant,
November.
yes, yeah, I meant either the working session or another separate time from that.
Well,
Is what I was thinking.
Because he said he was here,
But-
so it was just.
No, I was not thinking now.
Okay, we have a gigundo item on the October agenda, and that is the zoning code.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We haven't moved on to another item. We can reconsider this vote. If you would like to take more time to look at this, I would suggest that we move it another month out.
I amend my motion to, instead of October, to the
To the
November
November,
meeting.
okay.
You
Yep.
you have the second.
That's second, yeah.
We're agreeable with the second.
Okay, so.
So
and
November.
You want a roll call?
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
good. Can we get a roll call on that motion?
Yes. Scott,
Approved.
Gerke,
Approved.
Collier,
Approve.
Lamond,
Approved.
Davis, Walker, Campbell,
Approve.
Sharma.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just sighed. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You did approve, sir?
I did not.
You did not approve?
Yeah.
So that's a no.
I kind of breathed. I apologize. I just took a breath. I was considering. I actually did research the HUD guidelines, and I mean, I'm willing to give more time for everybody to consider it, but I would have went with the standard if we voted today.
So,
Understand.
just to make sure I understand, so you're
Yes, I'm
voting
voting.
to table?
I think Commissioner Walker
Yes,
is
I am voting no today,
voting
Motion to table.
no on the
Table.
motion to.
but I don't mind.
To
Yeah,
table.
I'm just, today I'm voting no to.
And I think I was at Chairman Stafford.
I approve.
Okay, so this will move to the November Planning Commission meeting agenda. Second Thursday in November. Okay?
You know, that sounds good, but I'm curious as to what the format of that discussion might look like. Because if it's going to be a huge presentation with facts and figures and a lot of discussion and the city attorney involved, I mean, is that what we're planning on doing?
No, if you have additional information for the packet, we would need to have that on October 12th, or is it the 11th?
The November meeting is the 14th.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
but items for that agenda would
It's
have,
either going to be the 4th of October or the 11th of October. I
Okay.
don't have the schedule in front of me.
okay. By the 11th of October, we would need the information that you would like Planning Commission to have for the November meeting.
Can you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you so much. You all have my information. If you have any questions that I didn't address tonight, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the director's report.
Right. We would like to get some additional work sessions set on the zoning code. We have a preliminary date of the 19th, and our typical work session times are either noontime or 5 o'clock. We think we need longer than an hour, so it would either be noon to 1:30 or maybe 4:30 to 6. Which,
I would prefer 4:30.
okay.
I
Okay.
agree.
Seeing
4:30.
nods.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, but that's, I think we need to understand, let's not limit the closing time, do we? I mean, once we have a meeting, that meeting can go on if we want to go till
We can,
6:15 or
if we-
6:30 or
sure.
something, if we're feeling okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I'm getting the sense that most of us are now really beginning to understand some of the complications of these issues. We've got a few things thrown on the table, and some of the tricky issues that we have come up. In fact, this is a good example of some of the confusion we had a week ago about what's a manufactured home, what's a modular home, what's a mobile home, and the definitions and each standard and those things. So, I mean, we can spend, I think it's gonna take us 30 minutes to
Well,
resolve that one issue.
It's also easier to go beyond time when
Yeah.
you're sitting at 4:30 than
Yeah,
noon.
yeah.
okay.
So-
Well, let's say 4:30 then on the 19th. And should we say the same time for the 26th? No, yes, 26th, 4:30? And then,
I know on the 26th, I have a eye appointment at 4
okay,
on the
I'm also
26th.
available and-
we could maybe
I-
start
yeah, I could
later,
try my best to get here. You say
or we could start at
4:30.
5.
Yeah,
Can
Would
we
that
meet-
work?
can
that may
we
be
meet?
better for me.
I would like us to meet before the 26th. I am not available, and I really
Okay.
would like.
Okay, so,
Are you trying to stick with Thursdays or something, for some reason? or something, or-
that's, we would like to, we do have,
Because it fits all the other calendars.
it does, yeah.
But
Did you just ask if, does it have to be on a Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my question. Does it have to be on a Thursday?
We have things going on other days, as I'm sure many of you do too.
Well, let's back up and try some other days before the
Okay.
26th, because I'm gone for the whole week from then.
Okay, so
I'm out too.
Yeah, that's 3.
we're good on the 19th at 4:30 till whenever?
Can you make that, Beneza?
I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to make it on the 19th at
You-
4:30.
Okay.
But I can make it at the noon time on the 19th. If we were to do it at noon, or, I mean, before. I just need to be done by, basically, I need to be done by 5 here. If,
On the
Okay.
if,
19th?
if
Are
on the
we gonna-
I
19th.
thought we just agreed to the 19th. You're not available on the 19th?
Not on the 19th, I'm sorry.
Well, maybe this is one of those
Wait.
situations where we just have to accept that somebody may not be able to make it as long as we have a quorum for the discussion.
Okay.
And I don't know if that will affect you, Beneza, or somebody else.
Well, would we consider throw out the 18th instead of the 19th? I mean, let's try to,
The times would change, I would assume, or would, depending on the
If
day.
it was the 18th, it would need to be in the daytime. We have many people who have church responsibilities on Wednesdays,
I'm available anytime on the 18th.
on the 18th. Okay. Ladante?
Yeah, the 18th is fine.
So if it's the
Okay.
18th,
Like
I'm
you-
assuming
yeah.
it would be at noon or sometime earlier than 4:30 then?
Okay, is 4:30
Or is that too late?
or noon?
Because 4:30 would be better, but for me personally. But
Okay.
also the church is, I mean, it depends on what time people are doing
4:30.
4:30 stuff, so, I don't know, on Wednesdays, so
Works for me. If
4:30.
4:30?
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
What day?
18th.
Wednesday, the 18th, 4:30. Okay, we need at least one more.
No.
Yeah, you gotta double check your calendar before we walk out of here.
Let's see, 18th, 4:30.
Yes, I'm fine any day. It's just the 26th. I
Okay.
scheduled this like 2 months ago.
Okay.
Chairman, you want to show of hands? Is okay?
Bill, when are you going?
What we have suggested now is the 18th,
Oh, I thought, yeah, we're doing that.
4:30 the 18th.
Yeah.
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 Unanimous, Brian?
Yes,
Oh, the 18th's good.
Okay,
Okay.
that's done.
perfect.
The second session then,
25th, is Wednesday a good day for people?
that's BZA
It generally is for me.
Okay.
And there is a BZA item also.
4. Oh, that's at 4.
Yeah, so we can't start
I think that's a real.
before
stickler.
5.
5, yeah.
We have the agenda on that set, or?
There's one item on BZA, but I mean, that meeting should be way over before 5 o'clock.
Will it be over before
It
4:30?
could. I mean, I don't anticipate it being controversial, but
Okay.
don't have a crystal ball.
Well, should we shoot for 4:30 and then
Mhm.
whenever we can, we'll start it?
Sure.
On the
Since,
25th?
on the 25th,
You're saying
4:30?
4:30 again, yeah.
Wednesday, the 20th.
4:30 Wednesday,
Perfect.
28th.
4:30?
25th.
Yes?
Yes.
I'll do my best. That's my week of getting ready for I'll do my best.
Okay, okay. 4:30. Understanding that when you get here on the 25th, there may be a BZA meeting underway, but more than half of the BZA members will be seated in their proper chairs. So that should make it easy to get us all settled. Don't start without the rest of us.
I would just have to be out by 6:15.
Okay, that's probably doable.
So,
For sanity's sake.
Sure hope
that's
so.
probably good.
one more item, I won't keep you guys, but your presentations have been really good. Great, thank you. I think, though, that what we need to do is, we need to, you've pretty well given us an agenda for that next session
Pretty much.
in items, so if you have some, instead of holding your slides, I would suggest, that we either agree to read it, or you present anything else you want to present to us in the next few days, or by Monday or something, and that we just then go through those sections and see, be sure what questions we have and what other things we have. We just go. That
So we
makes sense?
could, in
It's only
effect,
30 minutes reading things
give
that we're
you-
up-
So you're
give
saying
you
send
the
it early?
presentation, send it to you.
Yeah.
Over,
Okay.
yeah, over
We
email.
can do
Yeah,
that.
okay, yeah.
So what are we
Yeah.
gonna do on Wednesday? Which part?
We're going to do the items that were at the end.
Rest of the policy.
The remainder of the
Yeah, if you go
packet.
back to that, if you go
Yeah.
back,
Packet we had today.
you go back to this packet, it lists there, it lists them.
We only got
But we'll,
through.
we'll send you kind of
And
a,
she'll
something
send us another-
resembling
she'll send us
this.
another update.
Yeah.
You'll get
send
something
us
like
another-
this, kind of a workbook thing that will direct you to the sections. There'll be a summary.
Excellent.
Okay, good idea.
Finish the director's report.
I'm totally done, yeah.
Move we adjourn.
So moved.
But before that, can I just ask to see if something is possible? And I apologize because we're getting very late. But as I was reading through the code, one of the things that struck me is that as a commission, we only tend to deal with those things that are issues of approvals up front and not any enforcement action, because there are some enforcement things in here as well. And I'm just wondering if it would be possible and appropriate, and that's a clear question, not an assumption, to, in the director's report, say, here's some, enforcement actions to be aware of. Is that,
Things that we're actually doing, or,
things that were taken as a point of enforcement by the planning department, so that one of the things that I worry about sometimes, I hear about these things, but
Yeah.
I never hear anything after that. And so I just
Yeah.
wondered if it would be appropriate. It may not be,
I'm
or
trying to think
possible,
how to
and
do
it may
that.
not be.
well, we have Robin here, always, who is our enforcement person. And, do you want to see kind of a topical
Well, just like-
report of what comes
Th-
up?
This month, we had to ask that these changes be made to this property, or just something like that.
Is that practical? Yeah, we can
Are
do
you just
that.
wanting a summary of some of the enforcement actions
Yeah,
that have been
yeah.
taken, not to?
Just to
not
understand-
that they appeal to us or?
No, no, no,
No,
no,
no.
no,
Okay.
just to know.
Yeah, just for
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put that on the November, December meeting.
So maybe, I don't
Well,
know, that
we
may-
could do a monthly report on like that, say, 16 visibility triangles, 10 people repairing cars in their driveway at home, or
It would
that
be-
kind of thing?
Yeah, it would be,
Okay.
I think, interesting to know, because when we are talking about the standards, I don't know where some of these things
Yeah,
have been
good point.
problems or not,
Yeah, yep. And anytime you're wondering about that, just bring it up, because our expert is right here. And
Our
you-
enforcer.
You raise a very good point, because some of the things that are in a code, depending on how they're written, can be difficult to impossible to enforce. If there's not a quantity or something that makes it measurable and specific, if it's just, every effort should be made to, or
Reasonable.
we encourage, or normally, or like that, that may feel really good when we're writing the code, because we're not telling people what to do, but it makes it impossible in the field to do anything
Yeah, yeah.
because of the subjectivity that's involved, and that really doesn't help anyone. So, yeah, I'm glad you asked about that. But Robin, you can put that on your list, and we'll start the end of this month. We can put something together, and you'll have it at the next meeting. Yeah.
Sorry, Robin.
Robin's
Okay,
gonna get some
now-
microphone time.
Yeah.
Out of exhaustion, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Aw.
So moved.
All right, all right.
Second.
And a second. All right.